One of my favorite books, if not my favorite book, as many of you know, is Grapes of Wrath. And the reason for it is not because of the story. If you've ever read Grapes of Wrath, you know it's a very, very, very sad story. It doesn't exactly bring you happiness when you're done reading it. Instead, it actually, especially that last scene, many times will cause you to cry. But the reason I like this book is because the way that John Steinbeck is able to have character development in it. Now, I know that it's a movie as well, but I refuse to watch the movie because I do not want my own thoughts of who the characters are to be influenced by anyone else. As a matter of fact, I won't even go to a book club about this book because I know how the Joad family operates and no one else is going to tell me how. Now, obviously, I'm very stubborn too about that as well. But this whole book, it's all about the Joad family. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to stand up here for 10 minutes and preach to you about Grapes of Wrath. But I'm going to tell you about two characters of Grapes of Wrath real quick. The two main characters, I want to say, of course, is Tom Joad. Now, Tom Joad is the son. It's all pretty much based around him and other people around him. At the beginning of the book, Tom Joad is coming back from prison. He was in jail. And he comes back to his family, and the family has lost the farm. This happened, of course, during the Great Depression, during the Dust Bowl. If you ever did any research about this, maybe you'd understand, right? But during the Dust Bowl, and so all these migrants are going from Nebraska, Oklahoma, wherever it may be, out to California. That's the whole point of the book, out to California to find work. Now, Tom Joad is the oldest son, and he is supposed to be the leader of the family because Pa Joad, he's broken. He lost his farm. He can't make decisions anymore. Literally, he's just there. Throughout the whole book, he's just there. He doesn't make too many decisions. But Tom Joad is supposed to be the leader. But Tom has a little bit of an anger issue. Now, it's always justifiable anger. That's why he was in jail. But he can never be completely trusted. And so someone else has to be the leader of the family. And the leader of the family is Ma Joad. We don't know her name. They only ever call her Ma. It's kind of like when I grew up. My mom's now working. She's in the workforce now. She had done daycare for 23 years, and now she works at the hospital. In the first couple of years she worked at the hospital, I'd call up and say, "Hi, is Mom there?" And they'd be like, "Huh?" I'm like, "Oh," and I couldn't remember her name. So I'd be like, Mom Carlson, Pauline. I'd be like, "Oh, yeah," and then they'd all start laughing. So that's how I knew her. I only knew her by Mom. Now, of course, now, hopefully, children, you might know your mom and dad's first name, but please call them Mom or Dad. It's so much more respectful, right? Because that's there, your mother or your father, your mom and dad, if that's what they desire. But throughout the book, we know who Ma Joad is. She is the leader of the family. She doesn't say much, but you could tell that she is the one that makes all the decisions, and the family follows her. She is able to endure hardship. She is able to endure pain, rejection, all of these things because she wants to guide the family to someplace good. Her whole goal is to keep the family together. And I'm always amazed at how she lived her life in this book because it's an inspiration. Because this, of course, is what her vocation is called to be as a mother, to hold the family together, to love them and to know them, to guide them, and that they will follow her because they know who she is. Of course, today we are celebrating Mother's Day. And as a mother, what is your main role? What is your main vocation? As a mother, of course, is to help those entrusted to you to get where? The answer we're always going to give, right, is to get to heaven. To help your family experience God. To help your family stay together, yes, but hopefully to glorify God. That's the one issue I have with Grapes of Wrath. They don't talk about God too often. I wish Steinbeck would have, but that was back then. But in a certain sense, the way I see Ma Joad is I actually see her almost like a shepherd for her family, leading them. Leading them where? Leading them to someplace better, hopefully, because this is what they need. Now, of course, you're thinking shepherd. What you should think to mind as well now is what? The gospel reading we just had today. Of course, this gospel reading is from John chapter 10, and today is the Good Shepherd Sunday. Now, it depends what time we take the readings, but today is from John. And it's John chapter 10, 1 through 10. And it can be a very, very, very confusing reading. So we hear about thieves and robbers. We hear about sheepfold through the gate. What's a sheepfold? What a sheepfold is, by the way, is a thing that holds all the sheep in. It's like a pen. It's a pen for the sheep. There we go. But Jesus says whoever enters through the gate will be the shepherd. But thieves and robbers will climb over the side. Now, the main point of the gospel today is this. Jesus desires, Jesus wants to be our shepherd. This is what he came here for. We are at the end of the gospel, what? I came so that they might have life and have it more abundantly. Why did Jesus come down on earth? Why did he save us? Why did he die on the cross and rise from the dead? He came so that we may have life and have it more abundantly. And the way that he is able to do this is by being a shepherd to us. But of course, this means that what? We must be his sheep. However, we too are called to be shepherds, but not the shepherd. Please follow along with this. It's a little confusing, I know, but think about this. As a mother or as a father, what are you called to be? You are called to be a shepherd for your family. As a priest, what am I called to be? I am called to be your shepherd. Of course, we'd see this with the bishops that have the crozier, the sheep hook essentially, right? Pull them back in to be the shepherd, but not to be the only shepherd. What does this mean? It means that we must go to Christ and let him be the one who leads us. But back to that analogy of a mother and father being shepherd. I love little children right around the age of 3, how they act around their parents. I have a niece right now, Madeline, and a nephew, Charlie. Charlie's my godson. I had to think about that a little bit, right? I'm sorry about that. Charlie, please don't blame me, but I have a lot of them. It's awesome. But at this age, at the age of 3 and below, have you ever noticed little children, when they come around new people, or even people they know a little bit, what do? Whenever I go home, my nieces and nephews are there, and they come, the first thing they do is they don't run to me and say hello. The first thing they do when they see me is they get right behind their parents. And they peek around like this. And they'll go back. And go back. And this happens for like 5 or 10 minutes, right? And they know who I am. They know I'm their uncle. But yet those first 5 or 10 minutes, they won't approach me or any other stranger. Why? Not just because they're shy, but because they have they know they're protected around their mother or their father. So 3 and below, they have no problem being the sheep. Then about 4 or 5, they start running through the parking lot. And at 6 and 7, we don't know what happens. And then teenage years, forget about it, right? But at 3 and below, you are their protection. They want you to be their shepherd. And of course, this should be happening all the time. But God desires for us as well to be his sheep. What does this mean? It means that we literally have to go to God and say what? God, you know more than I do. You do. You know more than I do. You have a better plan for me. You are here to show me the way. And if this is the case, then I desire nothing because you are my shepherd. But how hard is that to do? Why? Because although we're called to be a shepherd for our family, it's hard for us to acknowledge that we must be a sheep as well. That we must literally go to God and say, God, you are the one in charge. But what a great good shepherd we have. We hear about this, right? In our second reading from Peter, he says what? When he was insulted, he returned no insult. When he suffered, he did not threaten. Instead, he handed himself over to the one who judges justly. He himself bore our sins in his body upon the cross, so that free from sin we might live for righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed. For you had gone astray like sheep, but you have now returned to the shepherd and guardian of your souls. My brothers and sisters, today let us celebrate. Today let us go before God and simply say, God, Father, Jesus, shepherd me, lead me. Let me realize that I am not the one in control, that you know more than I do. Guide me and lead me, and thank you. Because of this, now I can be led where? I can be led so that I might have life and that I might have it more abundantly.